Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to introduce a couple of folks for you. Mayor Renard Johnson is going to be speaking first, followed by Police Chief Peter Pasillas, and then our District Attorney, James Montoya. We will be taking questions afterwards. I do want to advise you all that we're not going to be doing one-on-ones, so please be sure to get your questions in when we do our question and answer at that point in time. Thanks. And Mayor?
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by thanking the media for helping us share this important public safety message with our community. We are holding this press conference today because drunk driving remains an ongoing critical public safety issue in El Paso. One life loss, drunk driving is way too many. Public safety has always been a top priority of mine, and preventing drunk driving is a critical part of that work. Our police department has taken measurable steps to address drunk driving in El Paso, and over the past 3 years, traffic fatalities have declined by 24%, from 82 fatalities in 2023 to 68 in 2024 and 62 last year in 2025. DWI arrests have increased by 6% over that same period from 2023 to 2025. Over 5,000 impaired drivers have been arrested by the El Paso Police Department in just the past 3 years. Although this progress matters, these statistics cannot hug a child who is grieving. They cannot comfort a family sitting in a silent living room, staring at the door that will never open again. Because behind every statistic is a human life, and behind every life is a family. When a drunk driver takes a life, that headline may last for a day, but the heartbreak is one that lasts forever. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, what happens after one of those crashes. A family is waiting for someone to come home. Dinner could be on the table. The family could be in the den watching a movie. The kids are getting ready to go to bed. Then the phone rings or there's a knock at the door, and everything changes. A mother or a father who will never walk through that front door again. A son or a daughter who never makes it home. A dinner chair and a bed that stays empty, not just for tonight, but every night, every holiday, and every birthday. Those are not hypotheticals. That is exactly what happened here in El Paso to one of our loved ones. Last year, 28-year-old Dalia Olivas, a beloved English teacher at Triumph High School, and her fiancé, 29-year-old Rick Ballard, were killed when an alleged drunk driver struck their vehicle in East El Paso. Dalia had dedicated her life to her students. Rick had just proposed to her, and they were planning a life together. Instead, their families were planning a funeral. We also lost 17-year-old Miguel Angel Romero, an Horizon High School student who was struck and killed in a crosswalk. Miguel was just beginning to write his story. His future was still ahead of him. His death shook classmates, teachers, and the entire community who saw in him the kind of promise we want for every young person in our city. For a family like theirs, the word progress does not soften the pain. It does not make the nights easier. It does not bring back the person they lost. And that is why we are here today. Drunk driving is dangerous. It is illegal. And it is completely preventable. This is not just about arrest. It's about preventing crashes. It's about reducing injuries. It's about saving lives and making sure people make it home. The city has strengthened partnerships between law enforcement, prosecutors, and community organizations to ensure accountability and to focus resources where impaired driving is most likely to occur. We are using data, we are using enforcement, and we are using education because prevention is the most powerful tool we have. But there is a part of this that belongs to the community as well. When it comes to drunk driving, the rules are simple. If you drink, don't drive. Make a plan before you go out. Call a rideshare. Call a friend. Pick a designated driver. Hand over your keys. Because you do not want to be the one that causes the knock on the door that no family ever forgets. The message from the city of El Paso is clear. Drunk driving will not be tolerated here. If you choose to drink and drive, you're putting lives at risk, and there will be consequences. Our officers are doing everything they can to prevent these tragedies. And today, you will hear directly from our Chief of Police, Pete Pasillas, and our DA, James Montoya, about the work happening on the ground. Again, thank you guys for being here, and I will turn it over to the Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor spoke to, these are not just raw statistics. These are individual lives that have been lost, families that are hurting. And with the initiative of Enough is Enough, the El Paso Police Department has committed itself to stopping this DWI epidemic and traffic problems in the city of El Paso. Right here, standing off to my left, is Lieutenant Esparza, who has been over our DWI task force for years. Him and his officers have been committed to DWI enforcement, working directly with the district attorney's office along with our other officers when it comes to traffic fatalities and STI. We are looking for those people that are violating the law so we can stop this carnage on the street. It is literally carnage on the street. It affects everybody's life. It affects the police officers out there that have to go to these scenes, the firefighters, and those officers that have to make notifications to the families, like the mayor says, that nobody ever wants to get that knock on the door. So to enhance the traffic enforcement, beginning this year, January 1st, we started another traffic enforcement for the first 45 days of the year of zero tolerance traffic violations, not just DWIs, but we're looking for anything out there. Our officers have the discretion to do that. In the first 2 weeks of this initiative, we have issued over 1,400 citations to individuals. That's not counting the warnings that our officers have also given to individuals violating traffic laws on that. Almost 800 in 2 weeks hazardous citation. Those are red lights, stop signs, speeding, those types of violations out there. There are not enough police officers out there to enforce all the traffic violations that are in there. It is incumbent on the community to start policing themselves, obey the laws out there. We continue to work with the district attorney's office so that we get successful prosecutions in the violations of these laws. Mr. Montoya, the DA of the County of El Paso, is working with us to make sure that what we do and how we present the cases for his prosecutors to take forward is a solid case. As a community, your public safety, that goes from the officer on the street all the way to Mr. Montoya's office, we are committed to stop this carnage, but we need help from the community. So please help us stop this. With that, I'm going to turn it over to DA Montoya.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you that attended my press conference about the data in our criminal justice system, the outcomes that we've been seeing both in this past year and over the last 5 years, really since COVID, DWI cases are down, but we want them to go back up. We want them, more arrests, more cases means that more people are being held accountable. When we look at pre-COVID numbers in 2019, our office was filing approximately 3,000 misdemeanor DWI cases and about 400 felony DWI cases. that has dipped. Over the last 3 years, our office has averaged approximately 2,100 misdemeanor DWI cases, 300 felony DWIs, and the felonies include DWI with a child passenger, DWI third conviction or more, DWIs involving serious bodily injury or death. And so, I know that there is some statistics out there, some research that suggests that someone who's arrested for DWI on average commits the offense between 70 and 80 times before they are first encountered by law enforcement. And so, we know that offenders are out there. We know that people are committing this offense every day. Certainly we are fully in support of as many resources as our law enforcement agencies can dedicate to apprehending these individuals. Paso is ahead of the curve relative to some other jurisdictions in Texas. For those that don't know, Paso is 24/7, 365 blood draws. If you refuse to perform sobriety tests, if you refuse to provide a breath sample, law enforcement will work up a search warrant, present it to a judge, and get a court order to take a sample of your blood. That has been a tremendous boon in our DWI prosecutions. That is evidence of someone's intoxication, more than just observations, more than just what someone is saying and how they look. We are getting the evidence from its source. Our office is looking at creative new ways to try to deter this conduct even more, potentially requiring, asking judges to impose interlocks on DWI offenders even when it's not statutorily required. Under the law, only certain DWI offenders under the law of the state of Texas are required to have ignition interlocks. We are looking to expand that to even cases where that is not statutorily required by law. We are looking at increasing the fines that we are asking DWI offenders to pay. And I think that where we really need to expand upon is legislative change. The state of Texas, frankly, is a little bit behind on DWI laws. We're one of only 10 states that does not permit DWI checkpoints. One of 10 states. The vast majority of the states in this union allow officers to operate DWI checkpoints. The state of Texas does not. Texas, it's not a felony DWI until your third case. You have to be convicted twice, and your third arrest, that's a felony DWI. In many states, your second case, that's a felony. I think we should consider changing that laws and working with our state legislators to toughen that. The state of Oklahoma very recently changed their DWI laws so that 0.15 DWI, aggravated DWI, when someone is over twice the legal limit, that is now a felony in the state of Oklahoma. Here in Texas, that's still a Class A misdemeanor. And so I think there's a number, this past legislative session, there was a really tremendous change for intoxication manslaughter. It used to be the law that the maximum sentence in an intoxication manslaughter case was 20 years in prison. And so if there were multiple victims, it was within the discretion of the judge to add those sentences together. And so if two individuals were killed, it was a maximum of 40 years. If it was three individuals, it was a maximum of 60 years. The legislature in 2025 has now changed that so that intoxication manslaughter of more than one person is now a first-degree felony punishable by up to life in prison. And so that has changed. That was a pretty significant change in the law involving very serious DWI fatalities. But obviously, the vast majority of these cases are Class B and Class A misdemeanors that we need to take a look at just changing the laws and ratcheting up the punishment to how this community feels. The direction that I've given to my prosecutors heading into this year is we want more trials. We want to try more cases. We want to hear from El Pasoans how you feel about these types of cases, about other types of crimes. And so, really next to voting, jury duty is really the next most important civic duty. We need folks to show up and you tell us how you want us to punish these crimes. Texas is one of the few states where juries are allowed to assess sentences, where the jury gets to decide the punishment. We want folks to show up that can be fair, that can listen to the evidence, and then render a punishment, and you tell us what you want your criminal justice system to look like. I don't think he said it right now, but I know before Chief Pasillas has commented that we are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. It is not a crime to go out and partake in adult beverages and celebrate. It is a crime to get behind the wheel. And by the time that someone is intoxicated, it's too late for them to usually make good decisions. We want folks to make a plan. We need family members, friends, to hold each other accountable. If you're out, we have had cases where people are intoxicated at bars and out in public. But we also have a lot of cases where someone is intoxicated at home, at a birthday party, or at baby showers. We want folks to be looking out for each other. And if you see someone that shouldn't get behind the wheel, speak up, say something. We have a duty to each other to look out for each other. I'm certain that no one wants to go out and kill someone. I'm certain that when people go out, that is not on their mind. But choices have consequences, and we need people to start making different choices, better choices. In 2026, with the wide proliferation of ride-sharing services, getting behind the wheel after you've drank is to me unacceptable. There is no reason why this should be happening. If you're going to go out, make a plan and get home safely, not just for your sake, but for everybody else's. Thank you.
Great, we're going to go ahead and take questions now. As a reminder again, we're not going to do one-on-one, so please get in all your questions at this point in time.
Laura, ¿vas a tener alguien en español?
Ninguno de ellos hablan español, entonces solo que lo quieran con Debbie.
Yes, District Attorney Montoya, I do have a question. On January 4th of this month,
Yeah.
There was an incident where a 26-year-old man was arrested on a Sunday, and he posted a personal reconnaissance bond on Monday. And he was arrested with DWI with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old in the car. I understand that the judge was the one who approved that bond. This man also had outstanding warrants from 2022, 2023, 24, and 25. With a judge granting that bond the next morning, what can you say to an instance like this?
Yeah, so, judges by law are allowed to either set cash surety bonds or personal recognizance bonds. We advocate for our lawyers to generally oppose reductions in cases where the safety of the community is at risk. I can't speak to this specific case, but like I said, our general policy is for prosecutors to oppose reductions in bond for individuals who are a threat to the safety of this community or to the victims involved. I don't want to comment on this specific one, but we are in conversations with the judges. We do oppose these certain bond reductions in particular cases. But at the end of the day, people that are arrested, they are presumed innocent. There is the whole point of bond, the whole point of bail is not to preemptively punish someone, right? That they are still not guilty at that point. And so the point of bond is to ensure that someone shows up to court, they follow, and that they are not a threat to the community. If someone can be safely released while their case is pending, the judges are obliged to do that. That's what the law requires until the case is finally disposed of. Which, to my point, is also a really important reason why we want to move cases as quickly as possible. One of our goals for our office is to get it disposed of as quickly as we can. So let me give you an example. If someone gets arrested for a DWI and gets released, then a week later they get another DWI and they get released, and the third week later they get another DWI and they get released. All three of those DWIs are all misdemeanors because they haven't been convicted. It's not a felony until you've been convicted twice and then your third one. And so for us, it's really critical to get these cases disposed of, get people to plead guilty as quickly as we can, so that if they are a repeat offender, the next time they do it, we can start jacking things up.
Chief,
you said there was a 45 task force that was launched on January 1st, targeting, I guess, heavy areas where there's going to be, DWIs, but also the traffic infringements and whatnot, what have you. What can the public do in order to help, if they see a troubled area that may not be receiving that well of like patrols, what can they do in order to, help that situation or prevent, these DWI crashes and what have you?
So the police department is divided up to 6 regional commands. They can contact the regional command and let the commander know what they're seeing. They can contact 311 that gets inputted into the system. And of course, they always have their city rep or the mayor to contact. And there's a mechanism that the mayor and the city representatives can direct it to the police department so we know what the citizens are seeing out there. Another way to get involved is if our citizens, we just launched our website, if they volunteer, especially in the citizens advisory boards, on a monthly basis, the commanders meet with the people from their community to come in, and so we can hear all their issues on there, especially being this blitz with the traffic enforcement.
Chief, why is the enforcement only 45 days?
We're doing phases to this enforcement, traffic enforcement. The first phase was the enough is enough, where we did our DWI. We're still going to be doing our DWI. This phase is traffic enforcement, the hazardous behaviors out there, running red lights, speeding, things of that nature. The next phase is we're going to be going out there. We've been doing this since the beginning of Enough is Enough, but we're looking for people that have warrants in DWI, traffic hazard related type stuff. So we're doing this in phases, and we're just going to keep on putting the pressure on those individuals who decide they want to violate the law. There's going to be repercussions.
So the next phase is the warrants for DWI.
We're looking, yes, sir.
Chief, with Super Bowl less than 2 weeks away,
Mhm.
what kind of enforcement, if any, will you be doing during that time period leading up to the game and during the game?
So during that phase, that falls in with within our 45-day blitz in there. We're going to continue it like it's a holiday because we know people are out there drinking. Our DWI task force is out there. We redeployed some of our traffic units to assist the DWI. That's why you don't see many of the Mustangs out there. We switched them over to the nighttime hours where we have DWI. So we're adjusting personnel as we need them, especially during these high-profile areas or days events.
Other questions?
I have a question following up about cases. You say the 3 DWIs and felony. How does someone get to say 4 or more? And how are they still able to drive a car?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that stops them from purchasing a car or borrowing a car. I mean, we have cases where somebody's been to prison 2 times for repeat DWIs, and they get out and they're borrow a car, find a car. I mean, there's nothing to physically stop them from doing that. Those are some of the cases that we want to take to trial. These repeat DWI offenders. I mean, we can't stop them from making that choice. We just are doing all that we can to discourage them. I mean, I'm telling you, we have cases where people they go to prison for felony DWI, and they come back out and they commit the offense again. And all I can tell you is those are the cases that are the priority for us. When I tell my lawyers family violence and DWIs, those are the cases I want us to be focusing on because they're homicide prevention. The earlier that we can intervene in someone and discourage them and get them to reform their behavior to hopefully prevent something from happening worse down the line. But sometimes if prison isn't enough to deter somebody, it's hard to say. I also think that's why the DWI court that Judge Nchundu runs is really critical. There are people that have alcohol addiction issues that need to be treated, but at the same time, driving isn't an addiction, right? So somebody might have a substance abuse disorder, but getting behind the wheel is still a choice. Our office is supportive of those efforts. We want people to get the help that they need to prevent something worse from happening later. It's just each individual case needs its own individual attention.
I have a question for Chief Casillas. In terms of public safety, I did also want to ask about the department's crisis intervention team. It's a, big team and a very important team in terms of public safety, but in terms of that program, would you say it's properly funded, properly sourced, and for officers not part of that program, how are your officers being trained to handle mental health situations?
So with the CIT unit, I'll tell you the commitment that the mayor and city council has made. We are getting 3 academies every fiscal year so we can get more officers on the street. Would the department like to have a 24-hour CIT team? Absolutely. But we went through a phase where law enforcement was attacked on there. We lost some officers and people didn't want to apply. So now we're trying to commit to that. City Council, the representatives are committed to that. We're committed to training getting more officers on the department. And to your question about our officers trained, yes, the El Paso police officer is trained above and beyond what is required by the state. All officers are trained on mental health.
How are they trained?
Well, they get all the legal issues, and then they're trained by subject matter experts, and we put them through scenario-based training.
Do you know how many officers are currently part of the CIT unit?
We have 14.
14. Is there any plans are you taking any steps to possibly expand that program? I know you mentioned that.
So keep in mind, this is DWI focus,
Yes,
so
but
if
while
we
we
could
have the chance,
switch back to DWI.
Well, you know, I understand that you have 3 academies each year. Are you taking other steps to expand that program?
It all comes down to resources.
And would you say the program, the unit, is properly funded and resourced?
Yes, at this time. I mean, it all comes down to decisions that have to be made on there. It's not something we can do overnight. It's a long process.
Okay, I do have a question. Back to the DWIs. Is there certain areas that your officers are keeping an eye on that are patrolling more?
Yes, ma'am. So typically what we do is we have our crime analysts there. They're looking at all our crime, all our data, and that helps Lieutenant Esparza decide where he's going to deploy his personnel on that. We have the entire city to cover over 251 square miles with the academies that City Council and the mayor are giving us on there. We're trying to build up our DWI task force as well because we have a lot of issues that we're trying to address.
And just I have one more question. Are your officers seeing more first-time offenders or repeat offenders?
It's mixed. It's mixed.
We're gonna go to KBA and then
For the 3 gentlemen, you know, I'm familiar with the DA's office doing programs where there's, you know, the vouchers for the shares, the ride shares. Is the city of, you know, the mayor's office or the police station, are you guys working on possibly doing more of those in the future? Like, you know, doing vouchers for people who want to obviously partake in adult beverages, but, you know, want to find a safe ride home?
I mean, I'll take that part of the question first. You know, our office, we secured a $50,000 grant from TxDOT to do our rideshare program. You know, I know there was some philosophical, are we promoting DWIs? Are we promoting people going out and having a good time by having these vouchers? You know, it's a tough question. Ultimately, our goal, again, is people can go out. They can have fun, they can celebrate, they can commiserate, but at the end of the day, we want people to get home safe. And for us, the grant with TxDOT was a way to encourage people to start making better choices, start planning things out. You know, we would release, 100 vouchers in a weekend on average, and they would get scooped up in a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I mean, we got people that were upset with us because they would try to get them later and they were gone. But, you know, one of the things that we noticed is someone would claim a voucher, but they wouldn't always use it. And so we actually noticed over the course of the grant, more people, the usage rates went up. You know, when we started it, it was between 20 and 30% that people were claiming it, and only 20 to 30% were using them. The money would go back into the grant pool, so it's not like they could just hold on to it. If they didn't use it, it expired. By the end of the grant, we were upwards of 50%, close to 50%, even higher, of people that were claiming the voucher and using the voucher. And so I think to us it showed that there was wider public knowledge. The people that were claiming them were using them, which is good, you know, and every ride that we paid for, it was someone got a safe trip, right? And so it's something that I think we'd like to do a little bit more data analysis on the people that did use it and the rides that were used. I mean, for instance, there was no way for us to control did this person use this voucher to go home, or did they use this voucher to go to another location, right, to another bar? They're getting there safely, but at the end of the day, are we promoting the ultimate goal? I think that we were promoting people not driving, but I think for us, if to reapply for this grant in the future, I think we'd want to delve a little bit more into the data from before. I can't speak to if the city has any similar plans.
Yeah, so I can tell you that the city doesn't currently have a voucher system in place, but some of our community partners or some of our distributors that do distribute alcoholic beverages have worked to make sure that there was vouchers available for people that needed a ride share. So we will continue to reach out to our community partners that can assist us and help us in that area. But that is something we will continue to explore and to implement here at the city.
Real quick for Chief, the Sheriff's Office also has task forces working on this issue. What's the relationship between all the law enforcement agencies collaborating, DPS, constables, and all of you guys working on this problem?
Yes, good question. So traditionally, in all my career here, 40 years, all the law enforcement, regardless of state, local, we have all cooperated to ensure that our county is a safe place to live and work. So whether it's DWIs or other types of law enforcement issues, we have a good working relationship amongst ourselves. So if one person picks up the phone and says, I want to do this initiative, we'll throw resources at it, and vice versa. They'll help us throw resources at it too.
Hello, do you have any details on, can you give us numbers on those connections with the Paso County Sheriff's Office?
As far as the task forces?
As far as the task force, how many enforcement officers, how much money has been given into that platform?
So there is not any extra money that we put in there. We have officers assigned to the DWI task force on there, so they're already budgeted for on there. I could not tell you how many officers. I can have my PIO's office get back to you on how many resources have been provided by DPS, the sheriffs, the constables on that, but we can get you those numbers.
All right, thank you guys.